couple years ago, my wife and I have been involved in orphan work for about 10 years, just small. We got about 800 kids around the world, and we sit down at our table every day. And we were invited to come to Haiti, and that means we were having the honor of paying our way there and back and feeding ourselves while we were down there. We went down and we looked around, and we were introduced to a number of churches and the need in the place. There's just thousands upon thousands of orphan kids in the streets. And we were asked if we could help start an orphan work. And so, okay, let's try it. Let's find a house. We found a house and we rented it. We got a couple of churches involved. We bought beds, put 24 kids in there. And that was in 2008. In 2009, I went down to visit them. I'd never met them. Some other people were doing that, bringing the kids in. I was just talking about it. So we went down to meet them, and we added 8 more beds. That's 16 more kids, because it's 2 beds to a bed, right? The double bunk deal. And so we added that, and so we had that many kids, 40 kids in our house. And then somebody said, hey, we got some other kids over here. We're going to close this orphan home. Would you take these kids? Because we wouldn't have any room. They said, we're going to put them in the street. Well, you don't put kids in the street, especially if you've taken them in and started feeding them, right? And so they said, we're going to put them in the street. I said, we don't have room. They said, we're going to put them out. You got to take them. It says, okay, we'll take them. How many? 50. 50. We got 40 kids. We're full. You want us to take 50 more? Yeah, 50. Okay, we'll take them in 10 days. So we started telling people about it. We bought as many bunks as we could and just jammed the house full of beds. And tables. There was not enough tables. Put enough chairs to sit down 90 kids. And when somebody came by with a little girl, they found her in a house. She was about 2, they figured, maybe younger. Her dad had died. Her mother couldn't feed her, so her mother just left. This little baby was in the house, and somebody heard about it. They told us about it. They brought her to us. We took her in. So another day went by. Somebody found a little girl, 2 years old, in the ravine. This is a dry water bed that runs through this slum area. They built the houses up off of it, around it, and they put all their garbage and everything in that ravine. And that's where the pigs root, the goats root, and they found this little girl living in there, competing with the pigs and goats for garbage to eat. Probably about 3. So they brought her to us. Then these kids showed up at our door. There were 7 of them, from about 13 down to 1.5. And these people brought them to us. Their grandparents had been feeding them, but they obviously hadn't been feeding them while they were starving. And you could see the Ethiopian arms, just no meat, no milk, nothing but milk. And then the grandparents couldn't feed them anymore. Their parents had died. So these people brought them to us, and they said, we can't take them. We're full. We're going to get 50 kids day after tomorrow. We can't take these kids. So the adults started crying. Turned around and said, forgive us, and ran away. Littlest one was about 1.5 boy, and he peed his pants, man. Just going down there, you could see it. He just looked scared. Somebody take this picture and send it to me. What do? We took him in. So we were really full. We didn't have any room for anybody. And so we started praying because we don't have anything. And the Lord provided another house. So we moved the kids into that other house. We had 2 houses going. Then they got full. And we didn't have another place to put them. This was in the fall of 2009. And so we started praying real earnestly, and somebody called me up the day after Christmas and said, hey, I want to give you some money. Would you take $20,000? I said, no, don't keep it. No, I said, yeah, I'll take it, man. So they sent it. So we split up. We took $10,000 and put it in a bank transfer, which would take 2 or 3 days to get down there. And then my wife and I split the other half up because you can only carry so much into the country without reporting it. You don't report to the Haitian government that you have money, because somebody will find a way to take it, right? So we flew down there. We got down there January 12th last year. We were on the ground about 4 hours, and they had that earthquake down there. You probably heard about it. Killed 300,000 people. We were down there, the house we were in didn't fall down, praise God, but the house next door, the top floor dropped too. The other end of the building away from us fell all the way to the ground. There were people in it. We had to get involved in rescue work. and there were people coming to the front of the guest house where we were. We had to set up a medical clinic in the alleyway, you know, and it was pretty scary times, kind of interesting. We got evacuated out 3 days later. I went back 6 times last year. We have a piece of property there. We're building a house for 500 kids. We have over 200 now. We have 3 houses. And I want to tell you, it's pretty interesting when people come and they're facing death. And they don't know what to do about it. You know, in Haiti, they hadn't had an earthquake in 200 years. They didn't know what it was. I was raised in California. I'm used to earthquakes. A few years ago, we were up in Humboldt County. We had 3 7.0s in 24 hours. They had a 7.0 in Haiti and killed 300,000 people. So 7.0 will get your attention, you know. And so these people running out of buildings saying, "What's happening? What's happening? What's going on?" They didn't know. People looking at buildings that have fallen down, and there's people there. I have a picture of a grocery store that was full of people, maybe 500 people at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the earthquake happened. And it fell down right on them. They built these really thick seat roofs, structures to keep the rain out in hurricanes, you know, blow the roof off, you know. They get a lot of hurricanes. It just fell down on 500 people. Hardly anybody got out of that building. We had people in the Hotel Montana. It was 5 floors. They went flat, just like a pancake. 600 people died. Death is pretty overwhelming. I've been in Vietnam, and I've been shot at, and I've seen a lot of death. I was a medic there. I drove an ambulance in Hayward. I got shot at there almost as many times as I did Vietnam. I saw a lot of dead people there too. But I've never seen as many dead people as I saw in Haiti. We drove up the main street, Belmont Avenue, the day after the earthquake, and for about every 2 feet there was a body on the sidewalks for 4 miles. We went down to the morgue and there were 10,000 bodies laid in the square in front of it because there wasn't any room in the morgue. Death is kind of overwhelming. The story in the Bible about death, because it all points to what's going to happen to Jesus. And if you have the Bible, it's the 11th chapter of John. I want to quote it to you. I want the first 44 verses of it, and then we're going to walk back through it, okay? The 11th chapter starts. There was a man named Lazarus who was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Now this Mary, whose brother now lay sick at Bethany, was the same one who poured oil on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is ill." When Jesus received this message, he said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it's for God's glory, so that the Son of God might be glorified through it." Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, but when he received the word that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 days. Then he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." But Rabbi, his disciples said, "A short time ago the Jews there wanted to stone you, and you want to go back there?" Jesus said, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? The man that walks by day does not stumble because he sees by this world's light. It's when he walks at night that he stumbles because he has no light." Jesus used this figure of speech. Then he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." His disciples said, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking about his death, but they thought he meant natural sleep. So Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But come now, let us go to him." Then Thomas, called Didymus, or the twin, said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go so that we might die with him." On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to comfort Mary and Martha in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said, "I know my brother will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die." Do you believe this? Martha said, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God who is to come into the world." Having said that, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and he is asking for you. As soon as Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went out. Now, the Jews who were in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out. They followed, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. Now, Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When Mary came to the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who accompanied her also weeping, he was deeply troubled in spirit and moved. Where have you laid him? Jesus asked. Come and see, Lord, they said. Jesus wept. Some of the Jews said, see how much he loved him. But others said, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Once more, deeply troubled in spirit, Jesus came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone rolled across the entrance. Jesus said, take the stone away. But Lord, said Martha, the dead man's sister, by now there's a bad odor. He has been there for 4 days. Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So they took the stone away. And Jesus looked toward heaven and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said that for the benefit of these people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. Then in a loud voice he said, Lazarus, come out! And the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped in strips of linen and a burial cloth around his face. Jesus told the people standing around, take the grave clothes off him and let him go. So that's through 44 verses. So Lazarus was a friend of Jesus. Some people have him older. I have him about your age, in his early 20s. His dad was Simon, the Pharisee that we meet early in the Gospels. And Jesus came to their house. And Simon, during the course of Jesus' ministry, 3.5 years, Simon got leprous. They put him in the backyard in another house. The family lived in the front house and started spending his money. And then Simon died. Jesus often came there and visited because Bethany was like a suburb of the big city. He didn't want to live in the big city. He didn't want to sleep in the big city. You'll notice Jesus never slept in Jerusalem. He got out at night because it was very dangerous. You could get knifed, you could get poisoned, especially if you were involved in political, religious life, and he was. So he never slept there. He always went out in the countryside. The people that lived in the city didn't like it either. They got out to Bethany too, about 2 miles out. And so that's where they had their country homes. That's where they went, in the suburbs. Jesus often taught there. We have another story where Jesus is teaching and Mary is seated at his feet drinking in the teaching. And I'll tell you, if Jesus is there, you get at his feet. Okay? Because what he's saying, you need to hear. And she was listening, but it was going in one ear and out the other. It wasn't meeting with faith. Maybe you've experienced that. Martha was in the kitchen busy, and she was worried about wanting her sister to get in there and help her. And Jesus told her, don't worry about it. She's chosen a better way. It will not be denied her. But Martha was listening with faith. What she was hearing was meeting with faith. And the proof came when the test came. Their brother, the one they liked, the one they loved, everything, the one that they probably, Martha didn't get married so she could take care of her younger brother. And Mary, who everybody knew, Mary wasn't bad enough to get stoned, but everybody knew Mary. She was a very social, outgoing person that was questionable in some of her relationships. Their brother got sick. Looked serious. Jesus had pulled out of the area because he's almost got stoned twice. So they sent word to him, Lord, the one you love is ill. It probably took 2 days to get there. Or maybe a day. Jesus gets the message. He said, this sickness will not end to death. But in the interim, Lazarus died. Now, in those days, if you went into a coma, they couldn't hardly tell if you were dead or just in a deep coma. But they took your body, they washed it. They put 75 pounds of myrrh and aloe on it to keep the smell down. They wrapped you in strips of linen from the bottom of your feet to your chin. They bound your hands across your chest. They put a burial cloth around your face. And they went and had a big funeral, and everybody came and wailed, right? In the Middle East, even today, if you have a big funeral, people start wailing. They wail all over the world, except for here, pretty much. And they have wailing families because there's always food at funerals. They had wailing men, wailing women, wailing families, and they came because it was a prominent family. It was a rich family. And so people came from all over for the funeral. How many times have the sisters got caught mourning. They went to the tomb even to wail there because the cave where they put the body was just outside the village, and they stuck it in a limestone cave there. They put a stone across the entrance to keep the animals out, and in 4 days that body would be going to decomposition. In just a few weeks it would be gone. The lime would take it. In 4 days, the fourth day was the big day. 4 days they knew you weren't in a coma anymore. And the fourth day the worms started coming out of your nose. And they knew there was no turning back after 4 days. On the fourth day the smell got so bad you didn't want to be in the same area. 4 days, and all of a sudden Jesus shows up. Just about the time he gets to the edge of the village where the caves are up on the hillside, they hear about it. He stops. Martha runs out. Mary stays in the house. I think she stays in the house kind of in a stead. He didn't come when I called him. I ain't go until he calls me, you know. But Martha gets up and goes out there. She said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. That's easy to say. You probably said it. Only you didn't say it with those words. You said, you know, if God would just speak to me, everything would be fine. If he'd just come down here and tell me what's going on, man, I'd believe in him and I would follow him. That's what she said. She said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here, you'd have stopped this thing because you love my brother. Then she said something really faithful. She added something to that statement. You know what a codicil is? A codicil is something you add to a will. You sit down, you write out your will. You say, my third cousin gets my coin collection, you know. Then your third cousin does something real stinky, and you change your mind, so you add something to your will. It says, my third cousin isn't getting my coin collection anymore. That's called a codicil. She adds a codicil of faith to her statement. She said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know God will give you whatever you ask. That's hard to say. My brother's right behind that stone up there, and worms are coming out of his nose, and he's beginning to stink. But even now I know God will give you whatever you ask. That takes some faith. Jesus said your brother will rise again. Well, yeah, I believe my brother's going to rise again in the resurrection of the last day. That's easy to say too, isn't it? Yeah, in the future there's going to be a resurrection. Jesus said, I'm the resurrection. It's not a day, it's me. I'm the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. The point is there's hope beyond that stone. There's hope beyond that cave. There's hope beyond your death. Because Jesus is the resurrection and the life. And whoever believes in him will live even though he dies. Whoever lives and believes in him when Jesus comes back will never die. He said, do you believe this? And this woman makes a statement of faith, maybe the first one in the whole New Testament, maybe the whole world that ever said this. She said, yes, Lord, I believe you are the Christ, the Son of God who was to come into the world. The fulfillment of everything God had promised. When Adam sinned, God promised he'd send a Redeemer, a Messiah, an anointed one. In Greek, a Christ. She said, you are the Christ, the Son of God who was to come into the world. Then she went back. She calls Mary aside. Now, there's either something not recorded here, or she just presumed this. She said, the teacher's here. He's asking for you. Now Mary could go. She was called, right? She gets up. She goes out. Jews in the house following her. Okay, here we go to the stone again. Because, you know, death brings mourning. And mourning is like waves. It comes in flows. It just builds on you, and then it breaks on you, and it breaks you. And you can hate it. Because you weren't ever created to die. Not you personally, but Adam and Eve were not created to die. But they sinned. And with sin came death. And with death came mourning and crying and pain. And you say, I ain't going to die. The next time you get hungry, that's proof you're going to die. And before that, the next time you get thirsty, that's proof you're going to die. Your butt starts hurting from sitting in that chair, it's proof you're going to die. You're all going to die. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died, but even now I know God will give you whatever you ask. When when Mary gets to Jesus and she sees him, she falls right at his feet. She grabs his ankles. That's what you do when you got a prophet. You don't want him to go anywhere. You say, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Same thing Martha said. But there's no codicil of faith there. It becomes an accusation. Man, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Why didn't you come when I called? Where were you? See, Mary had drank in all that good teaching, man, that went in one ear and right out the other. It didn't meet with anything. Jesus saw her weeping. Jews are with her, everybody's weeping. He's deeply troubled in spirit. Where have you laid him? Come and see, Lord, they said. Jesus wept. Who did he weep for? Remember when the Father created the world and everything in it, he did that through the person of the Word who became Jesus Christ. Jesus. And when the Father created it through him and for him, and he says he holds it all together, when it was all created in beauty and glory, the Father looked at it and said, this is very good. And then sin came in, and corruption, and worms, and dying and pain and mourning. And everybody who is ever born has to live with that in front of them. The book of Hebrews calls it bondage to the fear of death. You say, I ain't afraid of death. Oh, you live it all the time, even if you don't know it. And I'll tell you what, next time somebody points a gun at you, think about how much you want to live. I didn't know how much I wanted to live till I had one pointed at me. And all of a sudden, I really wanted to live. I didn't want to die. I didn't even know. I didn't know I lived in that, man. But you do. And Jesus knew it, and he wept for you. He wept for all of his beautiful creation that was very good and that was stained with the fear of death and corruption. He wept for you. And they didn't understand his weeping. They got to the cave where the body was with the stone across it, and he says, take it away. And Martha, man, she says, Lord, he's been there 4 days. You don't want to move that stone, okay? You ain't going to like the smell that comes out of that thing. He stinketh, it says in the King James. By now there's a bad odor. You don't want to move that stone. And listen to what he says, because it's really important for you and me. He said, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Now, I can't find that anywhere else in Scripture. It's not recorded, but it sounds like he told her that 100 times. Didn't I tell you that if you believed, you will see the glory of God? Maybe he said it in other ways. Maybe when he said, I am the resurrection and the life. What he's saying is that if you believe in me, you'll see the glory of God and you won't die. He said that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. What he said was, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. If you scorn it and ridicule it, you'll never see it. And that's the truth. But if you believe, you will see God, and you won't die. They moved the stone. Everybody went, get ready. Here's Jesus praying. They didn't understand his prayer, but they heard the next thing. Lazarus, come out! You know it's a good thing he said Lazarus, right? Because if he hadn't said Lazarus, everybody who ever died would have come out of that tomb. And there's a day coming when everybody in the grave is going to hear his voice, Jesus said, and come out. Those who have done right, who are right before God, will rise to be judged to live forever. Those who have done evil, who have never accepted what God gave to you, what God provided for you, will rise to be condemned to hell forever. Everybody gets raised. Everybody dies. Everybody gets raised. Some raised to life. Some raised to eternal death. Lazarus come out. He comes out. He's got all this junk hanging on him. I don't know how he got out of there, man. He couldn't see. He couldn't move his hands. He was bound up with strips of linen around him, with all that myrrh and aloe on him. I think he might have had a little help, like Jesus, a couple angels, they got him up. They pointed him towards the door. One was a good cop, said, put your head down. The other one pushed him, gave him an impelling motive, and he comes walking out to the edge of that tomb. And everybody's standing around and went, whoa! He's alive. He's alive. Jesus said, take the grave clothes off him and let him go. If you believe that Jesus died in your place, he bore all your sins on him, all of them, past, present, and future, all of the world. He became sin before God and suffered the wrath of God. I mean, they took him and they beat him. Only a few weeks after he raised Lazarus from the dead, he was pointing at what was going to happen to himself. Now, Lazarus didn't get beaten. Jesus got beaten beyond recognition as a man. And he never sinned. Lazarus was a sinner like you and me. Jesus never sinned. They took him and they beat him beyond recognition as a man. You couldn't recognize him anymore. They whipped his back to hamburger. They hung him up on a cross. They probably tied his wrist to a cross piece. Then they nailed his hands because the nail wouldn't hold him. The nail was just there for spite, just for pain. They took his feet, crossed him over, bent his knees, and tied him against the bottom part of the cross, and then stuck a spike through him to boot. Just for pain. And it was called being lifted up because you didn't say crucified around women. That was a bad word, man. So they lifted you up so that you hung by your hands, your wrists. And to breathe right, you have to pull yourself up, right? And then you push yourself up with your legs when your arms get so tired you can't pull yourself up anymore. And so if they want to hasten it on, they come and they break your femur with a spear butt. They did that to the other two guys with Jesus. But just prior to that, Jesus, having fulfilled all the scriptural things that God said would happen to the Messiah, all the prophecies were fulfilled, even to the point where he said, I'm thirsty. And they came and they gave him some wine vinegar. And he drank it. With his last breath, the last bit of strength, he pulled himself up. I can imagine the pain it cost him. Pushed himself, pulled himself, and said, it is finished. He sang it a few minutes ago. Now he might have said, it's finished. He might have said, it's finished. He might have said, it's finished! However he said it, the sound of it has grown and echoed down through the ages, man, because he finished the work. It's done. He paid the price. That if you believe in what he did, you're going to stand in front of God on the last day, and you're not going to get sent to hell. Everything he did on that cross becomes effective for you. He looks at you, he doesn't see you anymore, he sees Jesus. He looks at your sins, he doesn't see them anymore, he sees Jesus having paid for them. Because he finished it. If you believe, you will see the glory of God. And the proof of it is this, and I'll close with it. The proof is this. On the third day, Jesus wasn't in the tomb anymore. They came there and the stone was rolled away from the entrance. They looked in and there was no body in there anymore. The strips of linen that had been around him were sitting there empty. There was no body there. The burial cloth that had been around his face was rolled up separately and set apart. He wasn't there. They said, what are you looking for? He's not here. God had reached down into that hill because the scripture said he would not allow his servant to suffer corruption, and he brought him right out through the wrappings. He moved the stone away. It wasn't moved away so that Jesus could get out. From that time on, he could walk through walls. It was moved away so people could get in and see that he wasn't there anymore. Because it's finished. And the Father said, yeah, that's exactly what was supposed to happen. You paid the penalty so that those who believe will see my glory and live forever. It's an offer for you. If you're looking at death, we all are. There's hope beyond that grave. All right? There's hope, man. And it's in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He died, and he was raised to life, and he paid the penalty. If you want to see beyond that grave, you need to believe that Jesus died for you. What he did on that cross, he did for you. Personally. I don't know your names. Just name your name in your heart right now. That's who Jesus died for you. That's who he was raised for you. Would you pray with me? Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the hearts here that are open to hear it. Lord, I need you. I need what you did on that cross. I need the penalty that you paid. You did my time on that cross, so I wouldn't have to do it forever. Would you enable me to believe that with a living faith? In Jesus' name.